Hello, it's Joshua here from Unboxable Kings, and it's an absolute scorcher of a Monday afternoon here in the Midwest. I've been outside drinking my Costco LaCroix and smoking a full chicken on the Weber with a barbecue, apple and hickory. It's been on for like 2 hours, it smells delicious. And as I've been sat out here enjoying the wafting smoke and the spitting sound of chicken skin cooking, I've been thinking about men, and that is a common thread in my life, despite being a very happily married straight man to a woman that I love. I do find myself thinking about men a lot, and that's the whole point of this channel, is to help men unbox the king within. And it's my belief that in this society, in this experience, it's very common for men to have the king within them boxed in, and they experience a reality that is mediocre. It's okay. Sometimes it doesn't even feel like it's worth living. And often, the man knows that there is another life waiting for him. And in my interpretation of those emotions that I've experienced myself and with clients and so many men that I've met, I just perceive that as you are either in the box or out of the box. And to add context to that, one of the walls that comes up on the box pretty early in a man's life is food. And that's what I've been thinking about, watching this chicken cook. And I know that on my own journey to being the best version of myself, I've often looked for alternative answers that I didn't know before. Often complex things, new things, exciting, fancy things. But food is a core system, and it's one that I think goes largely, maybe doesn't have the highest priority as it should. And I want to talk about food in this video and talk about how if you get it wrong, it can be a wall that boxes you in. If you get it right, it can be a system that you install that empowers you so much and it makes you feel incredible. So let's talk about it. So firstly, what even is food? I don't know if you've ever stopped and thought to define what food is, but your definition is very important, because if it's just something that you do, it's not going to get that level of priority and intention and investment if you're defining it in that way. So here's a definition you could use. And food to me is the fuel that makes this machine work. And the longer I live, and my body's been through so many events, recoveries, developments, to where I think this is the most fascinating machine on planet Earth. There's nothing that even comes close to it. And just like a car, the better fuel you put in, the better you can expect it to perform. So for me, food is a choice that I make that dictates how this machine operates. And from there, dictates how you are operating in your entire life. Because if you are the machine that makes things happen, you go to work, you work with your hands, you work with your mind, whatever it is that you're doing, creation, it's going to need fuel, it's going to need energy, and that's where it's coming from. So this is the sort of reverence I have with food now. And the reason for this is, in my own experience, I once had it for a few years where food was just something that was given to me, and I listened to the rubric of other people's food. Here's what you should eat, here's what you shouldn't eat, here's what's good, here's what's bad. And that pathway led me to hospital with stage 2 cancer. And whilst in recovery, I investigated food extensively, and it didn't take me long to realise that I was definitely boxed in because I was being fed food that was not food. It was not fuel. It was like putting oil in your gas tank or your petrol tank. It's just not the substance that is going to do the job that needs. It's not going to help do the job that needs to be done. And up until I was 21, I really do believe I was not eating food. And what I mean by that is processed substances that is labelled as food and sold as food is not food. Your body does not know what to do with it. It comes with it a host of issues, but yet we all do it. And we're all told that, everything in moderation, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, so we all do it. But with the clients I've worked with myself, the feeling of being boxed in and not living the life that you want is largely dictated by the fuel that you're putting in. And it's something I think a lot of us miss, because so many of us are just eating non-foods all the time. that we forget what it even is to eat food and have the right fuel consistently 99% of the time, not 80% or this bullshit moderation. I don't put oil in my car 20% of the time. I put unleaded in 100% of the time. But this wall goes up really quick because if your body's having to deal with those non-foods, processed foods, foods you can't pronounce, it doesn't have the same amount of energy to focus on other ventures and other creations that create the loop of what your life is. Do you see that? I didn't see that until it got taken away from me. I thought food was just food, and then it got taken away. My health got taken away, and I was like, oh, I've been eating foods that lead to the health situation I was in. It's crazy. But you have to have food as that priority. You have to give it that reverence, otherwise you'll just fall into the box of everything in moderation, do this once a week, oh, it's fine, everybody's doing it. It's like, why sacrifice having the energy in your life if you can change that? Because then it comes down to how do you actually do it? And over the last decade since cancer, I've tried various different ways of eating. I've tried all of the diets to an extent. The main ones, keto, vegan. I never did carnivore, but a lot of the mainstream diets, I tried a lot of that, split tested to see where it worked for me. And they all came with pros and cons. I believe that diets are more like tools than they are cliques, identities. I think diet tribalism holds people back from health because you put yourself in another box. I'm only eating keto. It's like, what if that doesn't work and your whole identity is about keto? Just eat the U diet is my recommendation. But after all that testing, I do recommend eating the U diet, the diet that suits you best, but you do have to do the testing. But within that, there are hills that I will die on in the food world, principles that I believe are immutable, and I want to share those with you because they've helped me a ton. I'm not saying that I'm the most athletic, most ripped, most in shape dude ever, but with the amount of effort I put towards my physical condition, it is easy for me, and I never have to think about it because I eat this way. The fuel I put in just works well for me because it goes under these principles, and I've seen other people eat this way too. So the principles I follow are, if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. And that's not to say, like, I know Americans can't pronounce French words, for example. That's something I'm observing quite a lot here. I don't mean that. I mean, if it's got like a really long name with some other stuff after it, just don't eat it. Don't allow it in. That's not fuel. And obviously there'll be exceptions to every one of these principles and rules. That's just the way it is. But if you can't pronounce it, I just don't put it in. And I recommend you just try that. See how much you cut out. You're going to cut out like maybe 70% of your diet. Some people more, some people less, some people more, just by getting rid of stuff that you can't pronounce. Because it's not real, I think, if you can't pronounce it. These are simple philosophies I live by. And the next one that's just as simple is that try to eat as many foods that have just that one ingredient. Whole food eating. Really easy, because this isn't like eat this many protein this day and this that. It's just principles. And whole foods are largely easy to digest, easy to understand, easy to mix and match, and they don't come with as many problems. So if you just do those two, you're going to probably find you cut out so many parts of your diet that's not serving you. Next is the sourcing is everything. The first two are obviously to do with sourcing, but the third point is that the closer you are to source and the more you understand the source, the better it will be. And the further away you are and the less you understand the source, the worse it was going to be. It's on like a scale. So if you eat hyper-local, and you can, obviously the best of which being growing your own, which we'll come to, but getting to know local farmers if you are eating meat and dairy, that is so key that you get close to the source and understand it, because there's way more that goes into food than just the actual substance. In my opinion, it's just energy being transferred through a system. So whatever is interacting with that system is going to influence it. So when you've got people growing meat out of love and passion compared to people growing meat out of fear and profit and exploitation, the first meat is going to outperform significantly. So the closer you can get to source and the more you understand the source, the better it's going to be. Because this cuts out just going and buying things from the other side of the world. That is just a whole host of problems. It's going to cut that out, and that's, for me, a lot of diet is just cutting out the problems. I always say to people, don't let the wolf into the pen. because why would you do that? You'd never do that in real life. If you had 10 sheep and there's a wolf outside, you wouldn't be like, I guess you could go in 20% of the time. I guess you could go in one night a week. You just wouldn't do that, would you? Because it'd eat your sheep. And for a lot of things, that's the way. So I guess that's another principle, isn't it? Don't let the wolf into the pen. Just don't do it. Have the discipline, because it is really important. The next principle is don't eat just dead foods, because when food is harvested, meat specifically, but even vegetables, this is the same, and fruit, the minute it is cut, it's dead. And the enzymes, which are in their simplest form a protein that helps with almost, I always say this, almost all bodily functions, because the more I read about them, the more it really is. They help with so many aspects of your physiology. And if you are only eating dead foods, you will struggle to get them. And your body has a pool of enzymes. And if you are not getting them in your diet, it will draw from that pool, and eventually it will run out. And then your organs will start to swell as it tries to make more enzymes. It's a real problem. And if you look, cross-compare health data with the trends that we see now compared to when people stopped eating so many living foods, it's almost a direct match. So eat living foods like fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, microgreens, which are easily grown at home, also commercially if you so wish, which are just the vegetables in their infant stage, 7 to 10 days old. It's basically just enzymes live in your kitchen. And I've kind of slipped off on this since the summer started. No one's perfect, but when I'm eating more enzymes, I do feel way better about myself, because everything is like putting kerosene on the fire. It just, but don't put kerosene in your body, obviously. So if you stick to those principles, I really do believe that you'll see significant change. And that's, we haven't even got onto drinks, alcohol, and other aspects, because that's slightly more drinks than it is food. But it's still part of the fuel, but I'll do that in a separate video. Because food right now is potentially the quickest win and the quickest way to unbox yourself, because if you change the fuel and you just focus on that, you'll be amazed at how different your energy is, how much clearer your mind is, how much more creative you are, how much more willing you are to go and actually take action because you've got the right nutrition. And it can be a really positive domino to tip over. So try these philosophies out, try these principles. This is just what I've developed over the years. And if you have any that you'd like to share, we're all here to learn. Please pop them down below. I just really want you to get this. I know how good it feels to eat well consistently. And that's the point of life in a lot of ways. So I hope you found value here. I've been Joshua. This has been Unboxable Kings. Stay sovereign, stay free, stay unboxed, and just keep living. See you next time. Much love. Peace.